I caught something on camera in the course of making a video.
Now, VF says, oh, Jesus. This is a gentleman dragging a log. All right, let's get the out of here.
I almost threw it away. It did 3.5 million views in 24 hours.
Matt, you've been on YouTube for well over a decade. Since then, so many other channels have fallen off.
I'm the old guy now, talking about how it was back in my day. I grew up reading car magazines. The idea that I could be the person whose job it is to drive the best cars in the world, you might as well have been like, I want to grow up to be Superman. This is a complicated story. We were doing Drive Network. That collapsed completely. People called me and Chris Harris greedy.
I don't think this slamming is going to work, Alex. I really don't. Don't break it before we buy it, dude.
Are you as passionate about making YouTube videos?
No.
You know that Adam Sandler song from the movie The Wedding Singer, Grow Old With You?
Do you think you will do it forever?
What would...
Matt, you've been on YouTube for well over a decade in the automotive sector.
2006.
And since then, so many other channels have fallen off, but you've achieved over 250 million views and just keep going and going and going. And just last week, I was watching your very orange, as you can see, I'm a big fan of orange, Gunther Works video with your 911, and it was absolutely incredible. Now, I can relate to all these points and things that I've seen and try and paint a picture of you. Many people will have their own picture of you, but Matt, in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Matt Farah. And like you said, I have been on YouTube since 2006. I'm the old guy now. Talking about how it was back in my day, you know. And to me, you know, it wasn't always a thing of I'm going to do this my whole life. It's I want to work in cars, be around cars, drive cars, maybe be able to buy some of my own cars. I in that way, I always just sort of found the next car thing I liked, which once YouTube launched in 2006, very quickly became, that. Because at the same time, us in the US first were getting illegally downloaded copies of Top Gear and Fifth Gear. You know, you guys, you know, maybe not you personally, but if in the UK, you know, you guys had that a long time before us. And so when I first saw that, what you might call modern video motoring journalism, I went, oh, well, how do we make a cheap version of that? You know, that led to other things. Videos, you know, led to doing a podcast, which we started in 2010, which led to doing some work on television, which we did in 2011 to 15, 16.
But it sounds like, which is quite different to a lot of people I speak to, you started with a bit of a vision. And the vision was you just wanted to live and breathe cars and actually make your work enjoyable.
Right. Because I grew up reading car magazines, right? Like Road and Track and Car and Driver. And when I was 8 years old, the idea that I could be the person whose job it is to drive the best cars in the world, give my opinion of them, and have that opinion matter to anybody, you might as well have been like, I want to grow up to be Superman. I want to grow, you know, I want to grow up to be the literal Incredible Hulk. Like that was not to an 8-year-old, like that's not a real job that regular people can do. So when I saw and certainly because when I was a kid, I didn't like writing. I liked reading, but I didn't like writing. I wasn't that good at it. But when I saw Top Gear, I went, oh, there's fun with cars on television. Oh, okay. And when I figured out, oh, actually, like I may not be good at writing, but if you point a camera at me, I'm one of not a lot of people, maybe you're another, that does not change from their regular self at all. Almost anybody else, you point a camera at them, they don't know it, but
they are a camera persona.
There's a camera person. They're conscious of it. Me, camera's gone.
Do you think that was the same for characters like Clarkson?
Yes.
That's when you get the most authentic version of someone, isn't it?
Yeah, if you go watch like the old Top Gears with like Afro, like disco Afro Clarkson, you know, the content is not great, but his confidence in front of the camera is 100%. He had that for a long time.
So that obviously captivated you, and you had that idea since you were 8 years old. You talk about thinking about that feeling of how amazing that would be if that's the case. Do you remember, because I remember mine, the first time you actually did some kind of video and it got some kind of views and something happened, you're like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm living it.
So when I first started making videos for YouTube, my friend Larry and I owned a car wash outside of New York City. It was our first business, and it was a terrible, tiny little car wash, but it was ours, 4 bays. And it was freezing, and we had a team, guys who would do most of the work, but we would also do a lot of the work. And washing cars is a tough job, and there's people who are very passionate about detailing, including my former partner Larry, who is now one of the best detailers on the planet, and we buy his products.
His channel, I'll put on the screen now.
MONYC.
MONYC.
I mean, so when I learned, we had a driving club that we created to get people to come to the shop and get their cars cleaned with us. We're like, if we get their cars dirty, then they're going to need to get them clean. So let's go drive them. We also like driving, right? And then when YouTube came out, it was like, oh, we can make videos of these drives, and then people will think we're cool, and then they'll want to join our club, and then they'll want to get their cars washed with us. It was like the very first thing I thought to do with YouTube was advertise our business.
Do you remember what the first video was?
Oh yeah, it's still on YouTube. I will give you the link. We thought the first YouTube video we ever made, I shit you not, was actually a teaser for a reality TV show pilot about our driving club, which if you watch it today is incredibly cringeworthy and terrible.
You were trying to say that.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, and we spent a fortune. We hired a helicopter. There were not drones. We hired a helicopter to shoot a cinema format of our drive that is like any other kind of drive that any other club might take.
Yeah, a minute ago you went, yeah, but how can we make a cheap version of this? Yeah, you follow that up with, but we hired a helicopter.
So because you're not wrong, but you have the order backwards. Our first YouTube videos were not me wanting to be Clarkson. Our first YouTube videos were to promote this club. And I wasn't even like a quote host yet. I was just a guy who ran the club. I was a character in a reality show that we were pitching about ourselves. That very quickly went straight into the shitter. We then said, well, what if we just make little videos with hiring a guy to make videos to promote the driving club? And we made 5 or 6 of those. They are so old. They're they're on YouTube. Search New York Motor Club on YouTube. I think it's youtube.com/New York Motor Club written out. They're like 240p. And we used fully copyrighted music, like Pearl Jam. And because it predated the law. They're still there. You can still get they never got taken down because they have the right to be there because they're older than the law. And so, but they're there, and they look like skateboarding videos, but with cars. That's the feel of them. Eventually, the guy, my cameraman, Tom, brought like a news anchor microphone. It was like, here, you're the host now. And I was doing some like man on the street bits.
That's like what TikTok's like now.
Yeah, basically. Yes. It was that. Yes. 20 years ago. And a guy saw me doing bits and had this was in 2007, had a company called Next New Networks that was a very early multi-channel network for YouTube. Like so early that like it wasn't like existing in virtual space, a group of channels that were connected electronically. Like you'd physically go to a building and all make videos together and like for like 10 different channels. So he hired me to make a show. I was on a salary to make YouTube with health benefits in 2007 through the end of 2008. $90,000 a year to make 2 videos a week.
And that was for that other channel name?
Yes, it was called Garage 419 was the show I got hired to make. It was not a good name for a show. I didn't choose it, but the stuff that we made for it was actually pretty fun.
And how old would you have been at the time?
27.
And how did that make you feel from that kid that we wanted to actually do that, to actually be doing it? Were you enjoying that?
I enjoyed the process. I went to university. I studied photography. I was a photography major. I was never able to turn my passion for photography into a career. But video is not much different. You're framing up shots. You're looking at colors. You're looking at shapes. You know, I didn't know how to edit video, but Tom was good at it. And I knew what looked good because I had watched a bunch of Top Gear and we reverse engineered it. We did like a spreadsheet where we did an episode of Top Gear and we did an episode or two of Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations, where we literally shot frame by frame what happens in this shot. Frame by frame, the whole episode. It took forever. It took a 15, 16-page document of frame by frame what happened. And we had a spreadsheet now of here's how you construct an episode of No Reservations. Here's how you construct an episode of Top Gear. Here's how you construct a Top Gear special. Here's how you construct a Top Gear car review. Here's how you can, like, you just had a spreadsheet. So all you had to do was do that backwards with what you could afford.
But it sounds like in that period, it was evolving so quickly over the years. And how many times do you think you reinvented the channel as it is?
So we did the New York Motor Club thing. That was one channel. Then I got hired to do Garage 419, which I think we did, I don't know, 80 videos, maybe 90 videos, something like that. The channel's still up. Then that whole company went under in the crash of 2008 and was sold to Google. And the whole thing just dissolved. But me and my cameraman said, we don't need a company. We just need a little bit of money. We know how to make videos and put them on YouTube. We can do this ourselves. Let's start a new channel. It's just us. But we need to go to California to do it. We were in New York at the time because in California, year-round season, amazing driving roads, all the cars and car culture you could ever need. You never get rained out, hardly ever. I think I've been rained out 3 times in 15.
If you need help with your digital marketing, then you need to click the link in the description and get in touch with me. I have my own agency, Tweak Marketing, which is here to help you take steps forward with your business. We specialize in design, websites, PPC, SEO, ways to help you grow your business. We deal from small clients all the way up to global companies and are ready to take on any project that comes across our desks. I hope you enjoy this episode. Does it make you a more positive person? Moving from New York to California, does that make you a more positive person?
It depends on who you are. Some people hate it. Some people love it. I'm in between. I think I get along better with East Coast people than I do with traditionally West Coast people. We just think on a certain wavelength. But the crispness of the California air, the fact that it's sunny a lot, works great for me. I certainly enjoy it. It's not for everybody. And LA is like not a perfect city by any means. There's like a lot of problems with LA, but, and it's not my favorite city in the whole world. But if you're going to do the jobs that I do, they're like the Venn diagram, like only crosses here.
Yeah.
The Garage 419, that was one. Then we came out here, we started the Smoking Tire. That started in 2009. And that's the Smoking Tire. We were making very produced videos, trying to make cheap Top Gear. Anything we made from 2009 to about 2014 or 15 was a pretty well-produced video and actually holds up really well today.
Were they the golden years?
They were the golden years of my enjoyment of the medium because I was working with a group of 5 friends that I really liked. We were having a really good time. We didn't have expensive lives, so we didn't have to earn a ton of money, but we were enjoying ourselves and living like, it was awesome.
And I also feel like that was the peak years. If you were getting new cars to review in those years as well, they were the peak years. In the amazing facility we have just around the corner from us here, you walk through the doors into your storage facility and your jaw just drops because you've got ramps that are 4 high. We'll go into it, everything that kind of makes it up. But the cars that I pick out of there, my eyes just get drawn to straight away. 430 Scuderia from that kind of 2008 to 2014 period. That sort of stuff just, I feel like those were the years you were spoiled.
I was getting into cars, really like professionally, right at the tail end of the analog era where there were still manual gearbox 430s and Gallardos and Mercies and stuff like that. And for me, at least right now, as long as I am physically able, I will only buy manual transmission sports cars. My wife and I have an electric a Porsche Taycan for every day, and then you saw I ride my Vespa. But as far as sports cars goes, stick or bust.
Yeah, I must say that when I turned up, I got here just before you was manoeuvring the van in. Sadly, the van that we're conducting this podcast in wouldn't quite get round the corner to show the incredible visual of your space behind. Stupid high restriction. He thought I was coming in a Transit Connect. However, I'm waiting for some sort of burbling V8 to arrive or something that will just make me turn around like that. And it wasn't a burbling V8. We're actually going to talk in CC now because you rolled in like this.
Yeah.
On a green Vespa.
Yeah. Well, I will defend my Vespa to the death if I have to. But if you were here yesterday, I would have rolled up in a Revuelto. So it's not, but you know, because I've got what you might call cars on test. Basically, sorry, am I drooping? Basically every week I've got a car that I'm testing. So I don't need a personal quote daily driver. And in LA, traffic is my enemy, and you can lane split here legally. So I like motorcycles, but my Vespa, which is a 300, so it's the fast Vespa, faster, is the best commuting tool that exists.
LA traffic is insane. How long does it take you to get to here on the Vespa versus in a Revuelto?
So I live pretty close to here, so the difference in time does not save me much. But I have other things to do today, and I have other places to go. And when I'm running errands around LA, it's not that it does save me time, a lot of time. The further I have to go, the more time it saves me. But it's also way less stressful to me to be able to say, I need to be way over there at this exact time. And the traffic is a huge variable, whereas on the bike, it's pretty much the same amount of time, no matter what.
Do you remember figuring that out for the first time and thinking, I'm going to try a Vespa?
No, I moved to LA with a Vespa. So I've had it since before then. When I was in the suburbs of New York, a Vespa was a fun toy and that I enjoyed kind of tootling around with and going to town and whatever. It was fun. It was actually my girlfriend's. And we moved out here together, brought her Vespa. And when I started riding around here, I was like, oh. And then that actually kicked me off into motorcycling in general. And I do love motorcycling also. But the Vespa with the cargo box, it's fast enough to go on the highway. It's really narrow, so you can lane split very effectively. And, you know, it's a CVT. It's torquey. You just smash the throttle off the lights. And I can beat anybody off the line that doesn't know they're racing me. You know, I'm gone. I don't care if you're in a Model S Plaid, I'm out.
How does those five guys enjoying the media and enjoying making those videos, and well, to that point, turn into also having an incredible business? Because the bit that I'm not seeing, when you told me about your earliest years and kind of growing up and being into photography, I was expecting you to turn around and actually tell me you're an engineering student.
No. I did go to 1 year of engineering school.
About, before we got in the van, the science of this building, this compound that we're at, you just talk so passionately about it, about the concrete, about the PSI, about the ramps, about the earthquake proofing. But I was expecting to get in here. I was like, I've got this guy done. He's going to tell me that he did engineering when he's growing.
I did 1 year of engineering school and I hated it. I did not enjoy it at all. I was not good at math. I was not good at chemistry. Anything I told you about the building, I learned from very smart people that actually did things. I had an idea for a business and I had some goals for the building based on what I thought would benefit the business, such as the angles of the ramps and the placement of electrical outlets and the way that cars need to maneuver in certain places and stuff like that. And certainly the aesthetic of the areas. But you're talking about extremely talented architects, engineers, consultants, materials people, tradespeople. You see our conduit? The tradespeople are insane who did this stuff.
Do you think, though, as a creative, you become passionate about anything? You just like learning?
I know, but the things that I am passionate about, I go really hard at. Cars, watches, certain sports, writing, making videos, doing doing this business. If I'm passionate, I will fully commit to something. And if I'm not passionate, it's very difficult to commit at all.
Here, from those five guys to
the golden era of YouTube, right? We then were simultaneously, while making the Smoking Tire, there was a thing that you may remember called YouTube's Premium Content Initiative, which was 2011 to 14 or so. YouTube saw Netflix taking off in streaming and said, we want some of that money. We want premium content on YouTube. So they offered loans to people that would be paid back with YouTube rev share over time in order to produce premium content.
I think, but don't quote me on it, that's what Chris Harris did in the UK. And is it when he did Chris Harris on car?
That was on the Drive Network. My show on the Drive Network was called Tuned, and it was about modified cars. So that was when Chris and I met, and when we worked together from 2011 till 2016, doing Drive Network on YouTube, and then also the cable version of that, the television version, Drive on NBC Sports, which we did for 4 or 5 seasons. And working with Chris was great fun. I learned a lot. He's a fabulous driver. He really helped me gain confidence in starting to slide cars, which I'm much more confident in now than I was then.
Another character that we both are familiar with is Ben Collins, because I've seen it. He took you for a rather incredible lap.
Ben is great. I love Ben.
Isn't it funny that we'd have watched him for so many years, both of us, without actually knowing that was the Ben that we know now?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny to go back and watch. When I rode with him, which was in a Dallara at Laguna Seca, I watched his hands. And the way he moves his hands is very familiar. If you've watched, you can literally, I mean, sitting with him, I was like, oh, I've seen this person drive before. I know how they drive. And that's what it's like. He's a fabulous driver, but he's a really, really fun dude. It's, I mean, being the Stig, if you're a racing driver, is a pretty sick gig. But also it's sort of like, kind of a bummer because he's like a really great personality also that they made him like shut up for a really long time.
Yes, it's all within the helmet. And
I don't feel bad for him at all.
But he was hidden in the helmet and the suit, but you were in the golden years of YouTube, living with those loans. How did that
So we were
transpire
doing
to this?
Drive Network. Okay, that's what this is. This is a complicated story. But we were doing Drive Network. That collapsed completely. Okay. And as a backlash to it, because people called me and Chris Harris greedy. It collapsed. It was not our fault or problem at all. When things are going well, whether it's Top Gear or anything else, the hosts get all the credit. And when things go badly, the hosts get the blame. Things at Drive started going badly. Me and Chris and the other hosts got blamed. It wasn't our fault. As a knee-jerk response to that, because I said, it's not about me. It's about the camera guys, the editors, the people that need to have jobs to make this stuff. It's not me. I don't need more money. So as a knee jerk to that, I said, well, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to make some videos that have no editing, no music, and basically no effort. I saw people doing Twitch, and I said, what if I do a Twitch stream, but in a car, with a real car?
Vloggers.
And so I did 2 cameras, big picture, looking forward, little picture, looking at me, review a car in one take. And then I called it one takes. And that's what they used to call me at Drive. That's what Chris and all those other guys used to call me, because I would go out to do my in-car bit and I'd come back in 5 minutes and be like, I'm done. And they'd be like, how could you be done? And they would review the footage, and I had done the whole thing in one take. And I'm nobody special, but apparently that is a talent. And so while I did it as like a fine, you won't pay editors, well, I won't use edits. But what happened was, A, it obviously cost nothing to make. B, it turns out that was a talent I had that other people didn't have and couldn't emulate. And the fact that I showed it in one cut, like literally showing your work, people liked that. It was authentic at the time, and it was new. And so many people have since copied that format, which is fine. But I did it first, and it allowed me to produce an enormous volume of videos right at the time that producing an enormous volume of videos was maximally beneficial as a creator. I rode the volume McDonald's model for about 1,500 videos over 3 years.
And yet you spotted that opportunity to be able to do that at the time. But when that broke down at Drive, or when that wasn't going great, was that your first proper challenge in the sense of like, oh, okay, like this stuff can go wrong as well with the media.
No, I watched the company collapse. The first time, I only had been making videos for a year, and I watched the company completely collapse in the tech boom. So I had seen things go bad before. And remember, even when we were making Drive, it was fun, but it was a side job. We were still making the smoking tire while making Drive. So there was always the smoking tire to come back to. I just changed up what I was doing with the smoking tire because the editors and the people who had to charge day rates, like it literally YouTube no longer justified paying them.
And at that point in your life, was all of your work consumed around media?
Yeah, because I was putting out 4 videos a week by myself, shooting, editing, uploading, following up by myself while doing the podcast.
Where we are sat now at your incredible facility.
Yes.
Stuff like this isn't cheap. This is unbelievable. What you just listed off to me earlier with how you put this together, which we're going to go through in a minute, costs millions of pounds. You've raised the value of the building by millions of pounds. How does a guy making YouTube videos and in the media, even in the golden age, get to the point where he can have such an expensive and incredible facility?
Well, the impetus for the facility first was that twofold. One, I saw a need for this type of business in the area in which I lived in. And 2, I understood back in 2016 that I could not be a content creator forever, at least a profitable one. The odds of that were very small. So I needed an off-ramp from YouTube that could perhaps complement my YouTube business. They could benefit each other, but that if YouTube, online media, whatever, totally collapsed, I would have a parachute that was mine. It was not in charge. There's no Bezos, there's no Musk, there's no oligarch. It's just me and a piece of dirt and concrete.
Why do multimillionaires and billionaires in LA need car storage? Can't they just build a 20-car underground garage and a £20 million home?
Well, because you said LA. In LA, yes, you can. LA is huge. This is hyper-local, this business. Hyper-local. In this area, you pretty much can't buy space. If you have a house that is $2 million, a house that is $4 million, a house that is $20 million by the beach, the house will get much, much nicer, but it will not get much, much bigger. And certainly the available of area around the house or storing the cars or whatever. Like if you have a $5 or $10 million house, you are rich, but you probably have a 2-car garage and really no driveway. And you're very lucky if you have more than that. And so for a lot of people who want to live near the beach, we're by where we are right now is a few miles from the beach. We're across the street from Yahoo, Google, and YouTube, and a luxury housing development with multi-million-dollar townhomes and apartments and Whole Foods and all that other kind of stuff. And then we're near Marina del Rey, Venice, and Manhattan Beach. These are all very high-end areas where space is a real premium to the point where it's virtually impossible. Furthermore, there's a really big difference in LA between I own a Lambo or 2 Lambos or 4 Lambos, and I own my own non-income producing commercial property to store those cars.
Right.
Huge gap. That's a big one. And so if you're Leno, yeah, a building. If you're Seinfeld, a building, right? Or you're a billionaire, a building. But if you're a wealthy doctor and you've got a couple of toys, or you've got a small business that does well and you've got a couple of toys, the space that we offer for the car, plus the care that we give it and the concierge and the time savings and the detailing and all the other stuff, there is no better value in car collecting.
And how did you figure that out?
I'm the customer. I built it for me. I have 8 cars. And I had a friend who had a building back in 2015, and he let me keep my cars there for free. That's the best luxury of all. When people call and they go, well, my friend can give me a spot, I go, buddy, I can't compete with free.
Did luxury car storage like that exist?
Yes, but not then. Yeah, of course. I didn't invent any of this. Nothing. I just put it in an area where no one had put it before. And part of the reason no one had put it there before is because it's so hard. And the rules that made it so hard are the same rules that allowed me to brag to you about concrete.
So what did your first facility look like? Or was this?
This is it.
This was it.
This is my first construction project ever.
So there was no cars in here before.
This was a piece of dirt. I dug the basement. There's nothing here.
There was nothing here.
Yeah.
So the business plan started with zero.
Yes.
It's not like we've started this and got it up the road.
No.
How do you build a multi-million-dollar facility from nothing to that?
You hire professionals. Look, it is not at all a secret that my father is a successful business person, and I do have access to family money, most of which is absolutely nobody's business. We also took on a construction loan, as so many people do, to build the building. You know, there's buying the dirt and then there's building the building, and it was crazy expensive, but the business plan does work in order to pay off the loans, and we got full and we pay our bills and have a business.
What is behind us is super uber cool. Like, if you like any engineering or appreciate anything, and of course love cars that are sat on the ramps, but you have cars 4 high in there.
Yes.
The ramps are earthquake proof because this is an area where you get a lot of tremors and there's a lot of movement.
If you want a proof of that, James May was here 2 months ago doing my podcast from Top Gear, and an earthquake happened while we were recording in the studio. It's in the show. It's in the first 20 minutes of the show. Like, literally, like a 3.5 earthquake happened while James May was in my studio.
So the 4-car ramps, was everything like that part of your vision for this place? Like, we're going to do this differently. We need to maximize space. Or is this stuff that incredibly talented people when you could do this?
So what was important to me was, obviously, maximizing the number of cars that we can put in any given space within reason, right? Because if you want to talk about, like, in Japan, one of those robot puzzle stacker things, add 2 more zeros, not even, forget it, not an option. So it's not like I had an unlimited budget. Like, we were working within an actual budget. And Park Plus makes these quad units. They're the only company that was certified to make those for Los Angeles, for seismic. And nobody had ever put them indoors before. They're an outdoor unit. If you go, when you're done here, they're installed outdoors just up the road. You can see them. They're not meant, so no one had ever done that. The city, because of a very funny law that is very stupid, made me dig the basement. I didn't want to. I had to, because my parking garage, as per city code, required a parking garage. Yeah. So I dug the basement. It drastically increased the cost of my construction.
They say all the cost is in the ground of a construction.
There's a lot of ground
here. There.
Not just that. Thank you to a gentleman named Howard Hughes, famous aircraft builder, who leaked vinyl chloride into this dirt for about 30 years. And I had to do environmental remediation, which means basically a huge vapor barrier underneath the entire building. Do you know what Flex Seal is?
A little bit, because when I dug a small fishing lake, it leaked. And I had to put a vapor barrier in that went down and under the water to stop the water.
So you understand how, Flex Seal, and I suggest anybody look up Flex Seal infomercial on YouTube, because the pitch man for it was this guy, Billy Mays, who was very, very charismatic and did these amazing stunts with this spray-on rubber foam sealer. He cut out the bottom of a boat and sprayed this stuff on and then went out on the water with it. This is funny bits, actually. The guy was a genius. I had to buy a tanker truck of it. A literal tanker truck. 7,500 gallons of Flex Seal, brand name, to make a vapor barrier.
That was one truck of vapor barrier, but how many trucks of concrete?
166 for just the sub and the walls, and then the deck was another 40.
And the deck is?
The deck is a meter thick with a double rebar grid of number 18 rebar, and the lifts, which are mounted onto 1.5-inch steel plates, have a mirroring steel plate with 9 bits of 18 rebar going through the 2 grids. The rebar goes through 2 grids, and then there's a mirrored plate underneath that. It's insane.
What was it like when it was done? And how long did it take to be done?
It took 4 years from closing on the property to opening our doors.
4 years?
Yeah. All the man wanted was to park his cars. Because here's how you end up with this. I went through the math of, I've got cars, maybe I'll try to buy a small building. Oh, that math won't work. Well, maybe I'll get a slightly bigger building and share it with a friend. Nope. Maybe I'll get an even bigger building and share it with 5 friends. Nope. Maybe I'll do a building that holds 60 cars. Nuh-uh. Maybe, and you just keep until you end up with the model that works, and it's like a lot of cars.
So how many cars can you keep in here?
We do 140 here in Playa, and then we have our second location that we opened in 2023, about 7 miles from here, and that holds 90.
If you're a car guy, which most people watching are going to be car guys rather than concrete guys, but we all like a bit of concrete. I think secretly, I'm convinced that especially with blokes, we love 2 things. We all secretly love a bit of concrete, and we all have a passion to dig.
Well, let me tell you what digging, because the digging was like a real environmental thing. We had to have like the EPA out here. It was a mess. But what I got to do was knock down the crappy little building that was sitting here before. You know, if the intent is to break it, you can't really mess up, you know? And so I got a half a day of excavator lessons, and I got to just rip this building down myself. It was a little, 1-story stucco piece of junk building. And was it great.
And in the 4 years of the project, that sounds like the most memorable.
I mean, that and the day the last guy went home and said, here's the keys. See you later.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
It was brutal. The whole process was so brutal. The regulatory hurdles were insane, and a lot of those hurdles exist because of safety reasons, and they suck, but I get it. And then some of them seem a little arbitrary, but
I've got a battle at the minute where I've just done an entrance to my fishery in block paving, and I had to protect all the oak trees within a 50-meter radius of some manual handling work that was happening there. So I totally get it.
People blame California a lot. People like, LA, California, liberals. And my contractor, or my superintendent, the guy who ran the job site he was from Texas. And I was like, Rick, is this California? He's like, buddy, in California, it's the walkways. In Texas, it's the cow pastures. In Alabama, it's the power lines. He's like, you show me a state and I'll show you the headaches you got to go through to build there. This ain't no California problem.
No, it's the state's problem.
No, it's just like everywhere has their own little levels of crap, I mean, I'm sure there's a reason that you're not supposed to mess with those trees, and it's probably a pretty good one. It sucks that you have to deal with it, but like with here, it's like, yes, I get why it should be a pretty thorough fire system, and the walls should be pretty thick.
How long did it take to fill up this with the cars that you see behind in terms of business and growing the business in years? And also, did you expect to have some of the cars that you've got in there?
Certainly hoped we did. We opened in September of 2020. It was right in the middle of kind of peak COVID, pre-vaccines, still, some level of fear. Not the ideal time to open a new business. I couldn't have a big grand opening party, for instance, stuff like that. And while I had always intended the business to really be serving people like myself, people who lived in the area and wanted to collect cars but didn't have the space at their own home. But for COVID, it was actually people who were leaving LA for a period of time to go to their whatever other house, and they wanted a higher level of care for their Bentley or their G-Wagon than they could do at the airport, right? And so we filled up with these sort of like, luxury cars of mainly people who were just out of town for like 6 months and whatever. Over time, that turned over into what you might call more permanent resident cars that live here.
Pick some out that are like my personal favorites from walking around. The Singers. Oh my God, the Singers. Like, there's just something about, we were talking about it, even me in my 20s, just every year I get older, I appreciate classic Porsches. Or like, I think it's just a drug. It's just something that you come to love. But the 918, the Ferraris that are in there, like there's just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, there's a really good variety. That's what I really like. I mean, what's cool about us, like there's a Singer, and then 12 feet away, there's a Volkswagen Golf R. Those two people pay the exact same amount of money to be here. And those two people are equally happy with what they're getting for their money. And that's what's actually more important to me. I don't, I love a Singer. I love a Gunther. I love a Roof. I love a 918. I love all this stuff. But like, what I really care about is that the customer is happy, not that the place is full of the most exclusive, newest supercars. That's just a side effect. And one of my favorite customers here, who I just love, he takes advantage of so many of the things that we offer, and he could easily afford to have his own building, but likes it here because of the service. And I like that. And when he first moved in, he had 6 cars, and they were all the current year supercars. And I straight up said to the dude's face, like, are you running like a magazine test? Like, what are you doing? These are all this year's model of supercar. Over time, he has begun to buy some older stuff, some offbeat stuff, and trade out a lot of those traditional supercar buys for stuff that, sticks to him a little differently. And so I like watching someone's collecting habits evolve.
And how have you evolved over those years? Since you used to do the videos with the guys, you've driven just about everything. Or whether you turn up on a Vespa or a Welto, just the flipping customer car, or something gets delivered in here and you end up having to go with a passionate customer. Like, you're always driving different stuff, but all of those years of doing automotive journalism, sure, I guess. What makes you the most passionate? What gets the tires smoking?
Well, it's what I like choosing the right car for the right activity. So having that work out is what makes me happy. And that could be a Vespa. It could be my electric Taycan. It could be my 718 Spider. It could be the whatever, a press car I'm driving, and choosing the right thing with that car, or the right car for the thing. I really like that. So that's why my cars are kind of all over the place.
Have you driven a GI Yaris?
Yes. No, excuse me. I've driven all the GR Corollas. I've never done the Yaris.
Got the GR.
We don't get it here. I'd love to have a go, but I know the vibe. Go on.
Hated it. And I got to drive it on ice 3 weeks ago on a frozen lake. And immediately, one of my favorite cars of all time.
Well, I mean, listen, there is no substitute for a loose surface experience in a car that's really meant for it. I went to the Porsche ice driving school in Sweden. Finland. Sorry, Finland. And the GT4 Club Sport on studs, like, the best. Just any the Mach-E Rally, which is a electric crossover, but prepped on proper tires with well-tuned shocks on loose surface. One of the best cars, probably better transitioning on loose surface than a 911 Dakar.
How has your love of cars changed with the electric stuff coming in? Because when it came in, surely you were like, "Oh, I'm not sure about this." But then you say that you've got a Taycan.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. No, LA is I'm not trying to sound elitist. This, of course, there is some barrier to entry of this, but LA is what you'd call a 2-car city. There's whatever you use to run around the town, go to work and restaurants, and sit in traffic.
It seems like a G-Wagon most of the time, if I'm honest.
So, but basically what you want is a traffic car. And then what you want is a sports car to smash a canyon on the weekend. There are cars that will absolutely satisfy both of this need, but there are compromises between them. My job that gets me a new car basically every week means I don't really need a daily driver car. So the Taycan is my wife's car. I drive it sometimes. I have the Vespa, and then I have a few sports cars, a few older weird cars, and so if I'm going to hit the canyons, my 718 Spider with the Demand engine is the game over. I mean, that's just the greatest car. It's 528 horsepower at the wheels. It weighs under 3,200 pounds. It's got shortened gears. It's insanely fast. It's great.
As a very American petrol head.
Yeah.
Do you get excited about non-modified cars? OEM stuff?
Sure.
Because the level of modification over here compared to where I'm from is completely different.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like to put a custom touch on stuff. So, I mean, it could be simple. I might change the wheels. I like to do a little custom touch on whatever. It's just the way I roll. I like to make something a little more mine and have it stand out a little bit from the others that are like it. Now, that car is a very extreme example. I took a brand new car, took the engine out and put in a different one with 7 miles on a brand new 6-figure sports car. Most people are not doing that. That's a very extreme example, but my job allowed me to test what I was going to get. So I knew what the end product would be. It did not disappoint.
You say,
but yes, that's possible. I am excited by some stock cars, but most of them I can't afford.
but you put your custom touch on those like you put your custom touch on the facility.
Yeah.
You seem like quite a monotone guy in the sense that, as you said, you're not different on camera to how you are off camera.
Right.
But also, what gets you like super angry? Because surely in this area, when you've put your custom touch on something and worked so hard on something, am I right in saying that there's some guys moved in down the street?
Oh yeah, a guy did move in down the street. Yeah.
Very close competitor.
Yeah.
Very close. Does that piss you off?
No, it doesn't piss me off. I suppose I should, in some ways, take it as a compliment that I've identified. A couple people have moved in down the street. I mean, the place that you keep this van is very close to here. 2 years ago, Haggerty tried to open a storage facility very close to where you're at, and they failed at it. And then another guy has literally opened directly across the street. I could get there with a 3-wood from here.
And when did you first hear about that? Was it before they owned?
No, every time I've heard about it, it's because someone has published something on Instagram and people will be like, hey, is this you? And it's not me. Yeah.
Is the name similar?
No, it's, yeah, the name of the one here does use some of the same words as mine. Yeah, it does.
So what does it take to get you angry? What is it like?
I mean,
what annoys you? What's challenging about the business?
I mean, look, I think it's like going back to the videos. I was the first person to do that thing, the picture-in-picture thing. I rode that uniqueness to a level of success, and then a bunch of people, essentially figured out that they could attempt to do their versions of it. The barrier to entry was low. YouTube shifted their algorithm, and so it became filled with that same type of content after a while, right? So I lost my advantage. I had here a very large first mover advantage. I was the first person to put one of these here. Now other people do, because I think they think that there's more demand than I can satisfy, or maybe that they can offer something that I'm not offering, or whatever. And that's okay. I can't be mad about it. The people that are starting those facilities are probably motivated by some of the same things that motivated me.
I can't see like a circumstance where I could just imagine you in any other way than how you are on camera and how I see you here in monotone. When you publish a video, you've mentioned so many times that the methodology and YouTube has changed so many times. You've had to reinvent the types of videos that you've done. These days, in 2006, you wouldn't have had a studio app on your phone. Now you do.
Yeah.
When you publish a video, if it goes 10 out of 10.
Dude, you should have seen what we had to do to publish a video back in 2009. It was like, it was a process. It was a whole thing.
But if you get a 10 out of 10 and you go home to your wife, does your mood change based on how well that video is doing?
No.
Has it ever?
Based on like literally the numbers of the video?
Yeah, performance.
No, I mean, it does I've been happy about stuff. I mean, there was a video where I caught something accidental and I almost threw it away. I caught something on camera in the course of making a video. I almost threw it away and said, I have to do this video over because this thing happened. And they were all, wait, what? And they wanted to see the footage of what happened. I showed them, they went, no, what are you, stupid? We're putting that on YouTube. Like,
what was it?
It was if you've seen the Lamborghini log video, have you ever seen this? It did 3.5 million views in 24 hours. It was the number one video, the number one post on Reddit for like 12 hours. And I'm driving a supercharged Huracan on a very windy road, okay, up in the mountains. And I'm reviewing the car. And like 3 minutes into the video, I start to see in the tarmac this weird, it's like a line of dirt that moves all over the road, almost like if I don't know, it just snakes all over the road, but it's going. And I come around a corner, and there's a guy with an SUV and has a log, like it's like maybe a couple feet in diameter and the length of this table, on like a 50-foot chain, just free dragging it, not on a trailer, just towing it on a chain behind an SUV on a windy road. So the log is swinging back and forth across the road. It's hitting signs and I caught it. I followed the guy for like 10 seconds and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then I, without really thinking, was like, oh, I can't continue this way. So I stop and turn around and go back. And obviously knowing what we know about YouTube now, I should have kept following him and done something, but just that moment was enough, so that video, I earned fucking 20 grand in a day or something like that. But it was never, it's not like big spike in hits. It's more about, is this a sustainable product? And also for a long time, the meat of my YouTube career, which is still ongoing, by the way, we're putting out videos every week, but when I was really, really 4 or 5 videos a week, it was a repetitive format designed to flood the zone with content of cars that predominantly came out before YouTube.
Well, now you've got the business and you've got that, as you put it, parachute behind you and something that's always there, that security network.
Yeah. It's already overtaken YouTube.
Are you as passionate about making YouTube videos?
No.
Do you think you will do it forever?
What would be ideal is if I could completely separate doing it from earning any kind of a living or caring about it. My goal is essentially to be Harry Metcalf, where you have enough resources where you could make some content if you feel like it, not make some content if you don't feel like it, and generally don't care if it does well or not. That's sort of a nice goal.
And that sums Harry up very well, because Harry is actually the guest that I would like on that lives the closest to me.
He's a lovely man.
10 minutes from my house, and getting him on this podcast is one of the hardest challenges I've ever done.
Really?
Which he's not been on yet. I hope that he will. But I think it's because of what you say. He's in that space where he can make a video. He's very likable. People love the content. He's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to. It feels like a gift when he's giving it out.
I think that's accurate. And that's not to say that I don't enjoy making videos. I do. I don't enjoy it as a business anymore. And what I really enjoy about my job is the cars and the chats and actually writing. I'm an editor at Road and Track magazine. And what I love about podcasts, what I love about magazine writing, is that I get to go have an experience in a car, a real one. An authentic or real experience, or van, and then come back to my studio, come back to wherever, and having thought about and processed that experience and thought about how I want to present that experience to the reader, the viewer, whatever. YouTube videos, specifically when I go on a press launch in Spain to whatever, drive the new GT3, right? Awesome gig, not complaining. But going on that event in order to write an article versus going on that event in order to make a video are incredibly different experiences, especially if I'm by myself. I have to film myself, set up all the cameras, make sure that, trying to lap a GT3 at a pace that will impress people while being in charge of whether or not your audio is good, all your cameras are rolling, and there's 75 Germans like this staring at you, is he going to go yet? Is a huge amount of pressure. And then taking everything you know about the car and saying it to a camera while lapping that track for perhaps your only chance to lap that track. If you're lucky, you get 2 chances. You do a 4-lapper to get to know the car, and the next 4-lapper, you're in car, you're reviewing. And that's your shot. That's it. You've flown across the world. And whatever isn't on camera isn't in the video. So you got to get it then.
Do you ever think about, when you're on those shoots, the 8-year-old that would have found that super cool?
Yes. And I realize it's only from a position of making 2,000 videos that I can say that. But I've gone on the same type of events on behalf of a magazine and on behalf of myself as video production. And what I'm telling you is, I have this so that I can spend the second half of my life doing whichever format of those I feel like doing, because it doesn't matter if I need to earn a living from it. And if I had to choose, with respect to the fact that most people know me from videos, and I've spent the longest part of more time, spent more time making videos in my life than doing anything else. Going forward, if I have to choose and money is out of the equation, my order would be writing, podcasting, and then videos.
Wow. Which is strange because you mentioned that you were much better at reading than you were writing when you...
Now I'm better at writing. And the only videos that I've ever made of myself that I go back and watch are the ones that I have both written and physically edited. I don't care if I've hosted a video. I know what I look like and sound like, and I don't care what I said. But if I did a great edit, a great flow, and Anthony Bourdain could come back from the dead and see 2% of his own work in that video, that's what makes me happy. Those videos that I've done, the ones I go back and watch, they are not commercially successful. They are often some of my worst performing work.
Are you as driven as you were 10 years ago?
Yeah, but just in a different, not in exactly the same direction. But yes.
Back then, were you more driven to grow and build a bigger business than you are now? Or do you have a sense of contentment coming in?
Back then, particularly when YouTube, I saw it as a volume game. It was produce volume, sacrifice your physical health and your mental health to crank out volume. I don't think that way anymore.
But I asked you about the 1 of 10 thing, like whether it would bother you to put a 1 of 10, if you had a 10 of 10 on YouTube, which is like out of your last 10 uploads, that would be shown
your worst
as your worst.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't bother you because you're in the headspace that you are now, but back in those golden years, would it bother you if you weren't uploading every day or those times a week?
Sure. No one said I had to upload at exactly 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday every week. I made that rule for myself. It's the being a creator is the freedom to do whatever you want, but you're also trapped by that.
Was that a tough thing to maintain? And if you didn't get a video out, would that really do you nut in?
Yes. And now it's got to go till tomorrow, whatever.
Do you think it's the same feeling as nicotine takes with people? Like you get a hit every time you put that video live and it fulfills that you're going to be okay?
It used to be that. It's not anymore.
How do you break the cycle?
Age, diversification. When I was only making the smoking tire had to be amazing. Now I've got multiple income and revenue streams. One of them is always underperforming. One of them is always overperforming. And it evens out. And if one of them went away, if Road and Track magazine collapsed tomorrow, I'd be sad. But my other 3 income streams would prop me up. So I no longer have to worry to the level I did when I only had 1 income stream. Now, each of those income streams does require physical input from me. None of these are passive. 3 out of the 4 are 100% active. They don't happen if I'm not there. At least the shop is open when I'm in Spain driving the GT3. And I know that the business doesn't grow without me, but the business runs without me. And the business grows when I am out there being me, wearing this logo, this hat, being somewhere. My clients, my biggest clients here are people I have met while being out in the world, in person.
So could we expect to see another one of these in Orange County?
I don't know. I mean, not necessarily Orange County, but I don't want to stop at 2. We have 2, and I've purchased the building next door to my second one. So we're doubling the square footage of that building. That's the current project. I only have the resources and the bandwidth to do one at a time. People have talked about, let's franchise and let's conquer. No. We don't need this. I don't need to conquer the world. What I need to do is have a nice, predictable income stream for the next 4 decades. That's what I want.
How are you so confident that's what you want? You seem to know yourself very well.
Because I've been a gig worker for 25 years, from photography to working at some of these car jobs to running small businesses to video production to hosting. That's a gig worker economy. You're as good as your next gig. And so what I would like is to enjoy the good parts that I like from being an automotive journalist. And there's so many of those, but I don't want to have to always take every gig, because if I don't, I can't pay the mortgage or someone's going to step in to take the gig.
Do you think that you'd wished that you'd have done something with business earlier, or do you think it takes those years to get there?
I as far as the arc of my career, I have absolutely zero regrets. I mean, well, actually, that's not true. I mean, I have small regrets. I have no big regrets. I don't think I've ever made a terrible, life-crushing business decision. I've managed to, let's say, keep it on the hole, if not in the fairway. You know, you play golf ever? Not a golfer? Golfers say that you're as good as your misses, right? And like, it's not about having one amazing shot. It's about your bad shots being playable. I've hit a lot of playable shots. They're not always perfect, but they're playable.
Well, I've enjoyed watching and seeing a lot of those shots being played all over the time on YouTube. Sometimes it would have been better if you'd have followed the log for a bit longer, but it's the given.
Regrets. Well, I do. There's a couple of those. I mean, literally my most viewed video of all time is a tour of Paul Walker and Roger Rodis's car collection that was shot about 2 months before Paul died. Now, obviously nobody knew Paul was going to die, but I put this much effort into that video. I was so hungover. It's shot on a DSLR manual focus. It's like going in and out of focus. It's just, all of it's terrible, but it's got like 10 million views because it's like a definitive archive because he died. So, you know, do I feel bad that I've earned like revenue share on it? Like, no, I wish I hadn't died. I wish I had done a little better job. I don't think it reflects all that well on me as a presenter or a producer, but you know, whatever.
It's always the things that you can't see coming. But thank you so much. You've got a very busy day ahead of you, for giving me this time to pull up in the van.
It's a nice van.
We're going to put some B-roll of the incredible view. If you walk just round that corner there, your eyes and your mouth just drop. Your eyes go wide open.
Yeah, unfortunately, we back up to our wash bay because the aircon is too tall.
It's an van.
It's too tall and it's not working.
But thank you very much for allowing us to come and see you. Of course.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure meeting you. And I wish you the best of luck with opening your other facilities.
Thank you.